Night took the heat out of the desert and left its bones. Coyote song thinned, stars sharpened like nails. The only warmth came from a small fire I kept stubborn as my breath. She watched me from the other side of the flames, hat brim low, cheek shadowed, pistol near her knee like a sleeping viper. Elara Quinn, the quickest shot in Rattlespur County, the woman who once swore she would shoot me on sight. I should have walked away at sunset. I should have left her with the dust devils and her pride. Yet there she sat, boots toward the glow, eyes cutting through it, asking with a quiet lift of the chin if I had flint and a conscience. I did. My name is Cole Maddox. Ranch hand when the rain is kind. Tracker when it is not. Some call me outlaw. Most call me trouble. Elara calls me worse. We both heard the same rumor at daybreak. A Pinkerton posse riding hard for the canyon. A bounty tied to both our names after the bank shootout in Dallaston. She said I planned it. I said her brother pulled the first trigger. Truth has a way of bleeding slow in the West. I fed the fire sticks of mesquite. The sap popped. Sparks rose like a flock of tiny prayers. Elara glanced at them as if deciding whether prayer had ever done a thing for her. "You look tired," she said. "I am," I replied. "You going to sleep with your boots on?" "Yes." "Good. Keeps you ready." We did not smile. We had no soft part to give. Still, the desert kept us close, ringed by chill and quiet. There is a truce that lives in hard country. You follow it, or you die. The wind shifted and brought the smell of water. A spring lived somewhere in the rocks beyond our circle of gold. I would find it at dawn. I would let her drink first. I did not know why, only that my hand had already chosen. Her hair caught firelight and turned the color of whiskey left in a glass after a long night. She caught me noticing. Her gaze steadied. "Do not," it said. "Not now." "Not while the night still remembers our names." "You think they will catch up by morning?" she asked. "If they ride foolish," I said. "If they ride smart, close to noon. What if they ride angry? Then sooner." She nodded. "Anger makes a man forget water. Makes him faster for a while, then makes him slow forever." The crack of distant hooves did not come. Only an owl called once and swallowed its echo. We ate hard tack. We shared jerky like two wolves who found the same bones. Her hands were steady. Mine were too, but they warmed when our fingers brushed. The heat surprised me. Not lust. Not yet. Something older. The body remembering the body. Her hat tipped back. A thin white scar rode her jawline, grazed by a bullet. Recent, Dallaston. "Who put that there?" I asked before I could stop myself. She licked salt from her thumb. "A boy who aimed like a man." What he did not know was how a gun changes a life after it changes a night. The words lodged under my ribs. Quiet truth sounds heavier than loud lies. I set my bedroll near the fire, not too near, not careless. "You trust me that little," she said. "I trust you that much," I said. Her throat moved with a small swallow, the kind that says a wound just remembered its edge. The sky grew brighter with stars. I watched her eyes track them like cattle along a ridge. When the wind paused, we could hear our breathing, mine rough, hers even. I had a thought then, simple as a prayer. A man can be forgiven for some things if he learns how to keep another warm without taking. The flames shrank. I added wood. She blinked slow. "Why did you come back for me at the arroyo?" she asked. "Because I owed your father," I said. "He gave me work when the river failed. He said you were meaner than a cornered mare and twice as proud. He said if I ever found you alone after trouble, I should remember that pride is only armor for the heart that went hungry." Elara's eyes softened, then turned hard. "Do not speak of him like you knew him. I knew enough," I said. Silence fell. Not empty. Something like a shared fence line, two fields meeting. She adjusted her coat. Her breath made a small cloud in the cold. Somewhere a lizard moved under ash and slept again. "You think I wanted that bank ruined?" she said. Her voice went low. "We were supposed to take a ledger. Names, debts, proof the owner had been bleeding widows under new terms he never printed. We planned no shooting. I weighed the words. Truth has a smell when it comes hot from a hurt place. Hers carried smoke and iron. What he did not know was that Ledger holds his future," she added, chin toward my saddlebag. My spine prickled. So she had seen me find it in the chaos. She had watched me tuck it away when the boy fired and the windows shattered and the horses screamed and someone yelled my name like a curse. "You could have taken it," I said. "You could have left me," she replied. We breathed. The fire whispered. The night leaned closer, listening like gossip. I shifted, slow, and pulled the ledger out. Set it between us, open to a page stained by a drop of blood I could not place. Her eyes flicked over the names. Women, ranchers, miners with lungs gone to dust, figures scrubbed and rewritten. Rates doubled after storms, tripled after funerals. Her jaw worked. "I have been angry for so long I forgot to be sad," she said. "Careful," I said. "Sadness makes a better map. Anger just makes tracks." She looked at me like she had not expected me to know the shape of that sentence. Her mouth parted. Not a smile. A breath that tried to be one. A cinder leapt and died at her boot. She did not flinch. I watched the leather breathe. I imagined the long tendons of her calves softening after days in the saddle. The thought was not chaste. It was not unkind. It lived somewhere between. "You keep staring," she said. "Yes." "Do you enjoy danger?" "No." "I enjoy proof I am alive." She nodded once. "Me too." But then she whispered, so low the fire almost kept it. "If they come at dawn, we cannot outrun them across the flats. We need the old mining road. We need it before the stars dim." I knew the road. I knew the switchbacks that let a rider vanish like smoke. I also knew the cave above the second bend. Water. A shelf of rock wide enough for two if they liked one another. Or if they did not, but wanted to live. "We will leave before the moon drops," I said. "We will ride in silence until the ridge." Her gaze slid to the horses. They shifted, tails flicking, ready like they wanted to be believed. Elara lay back on her bedroll. She kept her hat over her eyes. Her voice moved through the brim. "If you try to take me in for the bounty, I will not hesitate. If you try to leave me to save yourself," I said, "I will not let you." Her hat tilted. She studied me with one uncovered eye. The look said many things. The one I heard was this: a heart can learn a new shape if someone holds it steady long enough. The wind softened again. A hush, the kind that feels like the world is choosing. I banked the fire. I lay down. The cold found my back. Heat found my chest as I faced the light and the woman beyond it. For a long time, sleep would not come. I watched the line of her shoulder rise, fall, rise again. Every rise was a promise, every fall a question. When I finally drifted, I saw her walking toward water with her boots in her hands, barefoot on stone, moon on skin. She did not look back. If this story has warmed a quiet corner of your heart, stay close. The night still holds more to tell. Like and share if the wind has ever carried your name the way this wind carries ours. Let your presence be known. Your listening keeps the fire awake for what comes next. As the first hint of grey touched the horizon, a single hoofbeat sounded where there should have been none at all, and Elara's hand closed around her pistol as if the desert itself had reached for it, ready to rise into the kind of morning that makes or breaks a vow. The first light crept over the canyon walls, thin and silver, like a blade testing the air. Elara was already standing, hat on, pistol holstered, eyes narrowed toward the east. Her horse stamped once, impatient. Mine snorted in reply. We didn't speak. The night had said enough. I kicked dust over the dying fire. Smoke curled, faint as memory. The world smelled of cold ash and wet sage. Somewhere far off, a hawk cried into the wind. That was when I knew. The riders were close. Elara glanced at me, quick and sharp. "You hear it too," she said. "Yeah. 3 horses, maybe 4. Pinkertons. Or men paid to wear their name." We packed in silence. Her movements were efficient, angry, practiced. A woman who had learned to leave fast. I watched her tighten the saddle strap, then the next one, the leather creaking under her hands. She noticed me watching and said, "You gonna help, or are you waiting for them to catch us so you can start the next campfire?" Her voice was pure flint, but under it a thread of something softer. Fear, maybe, or trust she didn't want to name. I slung the saddlebag with the ledger over my shoulder. "You still think I planned Dallaston?" "I know you didn't plan to save me," she said, "but you did." That was the closest thing to forgiveness I'd ever heard from her lips. The first sunray hit her face as she mounted. It made her hair burn like copper wire. For a second I forgot about the riders. Then the sound came, hoofbeats rolling like thunder behind stone. "Go!" she shouted. We kicked our horses hard, heading toward the ridge. Wind clawed at my hat, grit stung my eyes. The canyon walls narrowed to a throat of shadow where echoes ran wild. Behind us, gunfire cracked. Stone splinters sang past my ear. Elara leaned low in the saddle, body fluid, fearless. Her braid whipped like a banner of defiance. I matched her stride for stride, the smell of sweat and dust filling my lungs. We turned left where the rocks split open, the old mining road just ahead, a serpent of broken stone winding toward the high country. "Keep right," I yelled. "The left trail falls away after the bend." She didn't answer, just cut through the curve like she'd been born knowing it. We climbed, higher, faster, till the sound of pursuit faded behind us. The wind at that height carried the taste of rain. When we finally slowed, our horses heaving, she pulled up and turned in the saddle, scanning the canyon mouth below. They won't risk the climb, I said. No, she replied, eyes still hard on the horizon. They'll circle and wait. Like wolves! I dismounted, tied my reins to a broken cart post half buried in gravel. We'll rest a bit, I said. Elara dismounted too, though her body stayed tense, her hand near her holster. You always so calm when death's following? Only when it rides slower than me. A small smile ghosted across her mouth, gone before it lived a full second. That was enough to make the world feel different. We found the cave halfway up the cliff, a narrow mouth hidden by brush. Inside, it was cool, dry, silent. The walls held marks of pickaxes from men long gone, their greed buried under layers of dust. I led the horses to the back, where a thin stream trickled through the stone. Elara knelt beside it, cupped water to her lips, and drank slow. When she looked up, her eyes met mine through the dim light. You saved the ledger, she said. I don't keep things I don't understand. Then why keep it? Because it made you look at me different. She stared, unreadable. Then her shoulders eased. That ledger has the names of every man who bought silence, every woman who paid with her land. The owner kept them in his pocket like sins. And now? Now we have his confession written in ink. Her voice trembled slightly, not from fear, from weight. Years of running had turned her voice to gravel, but now the cracks showed something beneath, something fragile, human. I sat near the wall, boots stretched out, hat low. You said your brother started that shootout. Her eyes flicked down. He did. But he didn't mean to. The guard drew first. My brother panicked. He's dead now, Cole. The name hit me like a nail hammered slow. No one had said it that soft in a long time. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. He chose his road. Her hand brushed the dirt beside her, close enough that the edge of her fingers almost touched mine. Almost. The wind outside moaned through the canyon mouth. It carried a low hum that sounded like memory or warning. They'll find us by noon, I said. I know. You could still leave. You ride better than I do. I'm tired of running alone. That landed between us like a stone in still water, ripples spreading quiet. I looked at her then, really looked. The anger was still there, but it had softened around the edges. The firelight from the night before had left its echo in her eyes. She shifted closer, her knee brushing mine. Not an accident. Her breath smelled faintly of water and metal. Cole, she said. Yeah. If we don't make it out, don't finish that. You always cut people off when they try to speak truth. Only when I can't bear to hear it. The air thickened, warm despite the cave's chill. For a heartbeat, the world was just the sound of her breath and the small trickle of water. Then she leaned in. Her lips didn't reach mine, not yet, but the space between felt alive. A tension born from danger, shaped by something gentler. She pulled back first. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. I hate that you make me feel safe, she whispered. Then hate me quietly, I said. We'll live longer that way. Her laugh was low, husky, and sad. You ever stop hiding behind your humor, Maddox? Only when someone earns the right to see what's left. For the first time since Dallaston, she smiled. Small, weary, real. Outside, thunder rolled far to the west, promising rain. The storm would wash the tracks behind us, or drown us where we stood. Elara looked toward the cave's mouth. When that rain hits, we move. The mud will slow their horses. I nodded. And if they're smart enough to wait till it clears, then we'll be ghosts before they blink. She rose, stretched, holstered her gun. You think we'll make it, Cole? We've made it this far, I said. Then maybe the desert's not done with us yet. She turned toward the mouth of the cave. The first drops began to fall, fat, heavy, full of red dust. The scent of rain on stone filled the air, electric and alive. If this story has stirred something restless beneath your skin, stay close. The storm has only just begun, and the fire between them burns hotter than the rain can drown. Outside, lightning split the sky, and in its flash, two shadows on horseback broke from the canyon floor, riding straight for the road that led to the cave. The rain came hard, fast, drumming on the stone like hooves that never stopped. Water poured down the canyon walls, turning dust to clay, paths to rivers. Elara stood near the mouth of the cave, face wet, eyes narrowed through the grey. "They're coming," she said. I joined her, squinting into the storm. Through sheets of rain, two riders emerged, shapes swallowed by lightning, their coats whipped like flags of war. "How many?" I asked. "Two, for sure. Maybe more behind." I nodded once. "We ride in 5 minutes." Elara's jaw clenched. "We can't outrun them on slick stone." "Then we make them choose, the road or their lives." Her hand hovered over her gun. "You mean to fight?" "I mean to survive." The storm grew louder. The canyon carried every sound, each echo stretched and broken. Our horses shifted nervously, ears flat. Elara moved to them, whispering low, steadying them with the same voice she'd once used to steady me. She didn't notice me watching, but I did. The way her touch turned wild things gentle, the way she seemed to belong to danger and mercy at once. When she looked back, her eyes caught mine through the rain. "What?" she said. "Nothing." "Liar." "Maybe." I smiled without meaning to. She didn't return it, but her mouth softened. The kind of softness that's rarer than gold out here. "Cole," she said quietly, "when this is done, if one of us makes it out—" I stepped close, rain dripping from my hat brim. "Don't finish that either." Her breath hitched. "You can't stop me from saying goodbye before it happens. You can't say goodbye before you've lived." We stared at each other. Thunder cracked so close it rattled the cave roof. The air smelled like iron and lightning. Every heartbeat felt borrowed. I reached for my rifle, checked the chamber. "We'll wait till they hit the narrow turn. The rocks will funnel them close." Elara nodded, jaw tight. "You shoot, I flank." She pulled her hat low, rain running in rivulets down her neck. I tried not to watch. Failed. When the first rider appeared, the storm dimmed for a breath. His coat was black, his horse pale, both soaked. The second rode close behind, smaller, quicker, meaner. I waited till their outlines blurred against the rock, till the wind shifted enough to mask the click of my rifle. Then I fired. The sound tore through the rain, echoed, vanished. One horse screamed, reared, bolted sideways. The rider fell. A splash, a curse, a thud. The second fired back, wild bullets ricocheting off stone. Elara moved like smoke. She slid down the slope, using the rain as cover. I saw her gun flash once, then twice. The second rider's weapon flew from his hand. He tumbled backward into the mud, cursing, reaching for his belt. She was on him before he found it, boot to his chest, gun to his throat. "Who sent you?" she shouted over the storm. He spat water, blood, and rain. "A man named Sutter, banker's son. Wants the ledger. Says it'll ruin his family." Her jaw went hard. It should. Then she struck him once, not to kill, just to end the argument. I joined her, boots sinking into red muck. She wiped rain from her face with the back of her hand. "We can't stay here," she said. "They'll have more men. Then we move higher." The canyon curved upward into mist. Beyond the ridge, the land opened into scrub and pine. I pointed. "That way, there's a cabin near the ridge line. Old prospector's shack. Half roof, no door, but dry enough. Lead on." We rode slow at first, letting the storm hide our tracks. The wind tore at us, wet and wild, but behind the noise there was a strange calm, the kind that comes after gunfire and before the next mistake. Elara's hair clung to her cheeks. She didn't seem to notice. Every now and then she'd glance at me like she wanted to say something but didn't trust the words. I understood. Words in the West can cost more than bullets. We reached the ridge by late afternoon. The rain thinned to mist. The cabin waited, crooked, leaning, half-eaten by time. A good place to hide, a bad place to think. Inside, the air smelled of rot and wood smoke. A small stove sat in the corner, rusted but whole. Elara dropped her saddlebag, pulled off her coat, and knelt to strike a match. When the first flame caught, it painted her face in gold and shadow. "Better?" she asked. "Better," I said, though I wasn't looking at the fire. Steam rose from our clothes. Outside, the rain eased, leaving the sound of dripping eaves and wind through pine. We sat close enough to feel heat, but not to touch. The ledger lay between us, wrapped in oilcloth. Elara stared at it. "You know what that is?" "Evidence." "Hope," she said, "for people who still believe someone might listen." "You think anyone will?" "Not until someone makes them." Her voice trembled. Just once. That tremor was more dangerous than any bullet I'd ever dodged. I reached out slowly, turned the ledger toward her. "Then we'll make them." Her eyes lifted. "We?" "Seems I've already chosen sides." She laughed quietly, a sound that warmed the room more than the fire. "You don't even know what you're risking." "I don't have much left to lose." "That's not true," she said, softer now. "You've got me. For now." The words slipped between us like a confession too honest to regret. Neither of us moved for a long moment. Only the fire did, crackling, breathing, reaching. She looked at the flames, her eyes reflecting orange light. "When I was a girl," she said, "my father told me fire could either build or burn. Said the difference was who held the match." "And which one are you?" Her lips curved. "Guess you'll have to find out before dawn." Outside, thunder rolled one last time, far away, like a memory leaving town. Inside, the air thickened again. Heat, rain, breath, and the unspoken ache that had followed us since the first night by the fire. I wanted to reach for her. Instead, I said, "You should rest. We ride again when the clouds break." She smiled faintly, pulling her coat around her shoulders. "You always this careful?" "Only with things that matter." She leaned her head back against the wall, eyes half closed. "You think I matter, Cole? I think you already know." Her lashes fluttered. The fire popped. And in the quiet between us, the truth burned brighter than the storm ever could. If this story has touched a tender place beneath your ribs, stay close. The fire between them isn't done speaking, and neither is the danger that waits beyond the ridge. Because as the night settled over the shack, another shadow moved through the trees. A rider with a lantern following the faint trail of steam that led straight to our door. The knock wasn't a sound at all, more a shift in the air. The horses outside grew restless, hooves striking dirt in warning. Elara opened her eyes before the second knock came, her hand already on her gun. "Someone's here," she whispered. I nodded. Only one by the sound. Or one brave enough to come first. I rose slow, stepped to the doorless frame, rain still dripping from the roof. A lantern burned through the dark, swinging low from a rider's hand. He dismounted without hurry, moved like a man who'd already measured the risk. "Evening," he called, voice steady, rough-edged. "I'm not here for a fight." I raised my rifle, kept it trained center mass. "Then say why you are." He lifted both hands, palms out, rain running down his sleeves. "Name's Rafe Delaney. Used to ride with the marshal out of Red Mesa. I'm tracking the same men that shot your town to pieces." Elara stepped beside me, silent as shadow. Her gaze was hard, unreadable. "Prove it," she said. Delaney reached slow into his coat and pulled out a badge, tarnished, bent, but real. He tossed it toward us. It landed near the fire with a dull clink. "I don't wear it anymore," he said. "But I still got reason to hunt those who wear it wrong." Elara studied the badge. Her voice turned flint again. "Marshall's men took my brother down like a stray dog. You expect me to believe you turned saint since then?" Delaney's eyes softened. "I expect you to believe I buried my own son after they framed him for your crime." The words hung heavy as wet rope. Elara blinked, once, twice, as if something behind her ribs had cracked. I lowered the rifle an inch, just enough to listen. "Talk," I said. He stepped closer to the firelight. The glow caught the scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. "The Pinkertons you shot at this morning. They ain't Pinkertons. Hired by Sutter's family to keep that ledger quiet. The boy you killed down in Dallaston was Sutter's cousin." Elara's hand trembled near her belt. "I didn't kill him." Delaney nodded. "I know. But the story's already written different in town. And every man paid to print, it's on Sutter's list." Her voice broke through the silence, low and shaking. "So we're ghosts before we're even buried?" "Not yet," Delaney said. "There's a judge in Junction City who ain't bought. You get that ledger there by the week's end, you might just turn the wind." I studied his face. "And what do you get out of it?" He smiled without warmth. "Peace, maybe." Elara crossed her arms, wet coat squeaking faintly. "What makes you think I'll trust another man in a badge?" "You shouldn't," Delaney said simply. "Just trust the truth you already carry." For the first time in a long while, she didn't have an answer. She looked to me instead, something unspoken passing between us. That silent question, do we ride with him or die where we stand? I gave a slow nod. Junction City it is. Delaney's eyes flicked to the ledger lying between us. Then you'll need a back trail. The valley routes are watched. There's an old telegraph road through Devil's Pass, quicker, meaner, forgotten by all but ghosts. Perfect, I said. We're good with ghosts. He gave a curt nod, turned toward the rain-dark woods. We ride at first light. When he was gone, Elara let out a breath she'd been holding too long. Do you believe him? She asked. No, I said, but I believe his grief. She dropped down beside the fire, arms resting on her knees. Her shoulders looked smaller in the half-light. All this death for a ledger full of names, people who don't even know we're saving them. I sat beside her. Maybe that's the only kind worth saving. She tilted her head, studying me. You really think you're some kind of savior, Maddox? No, I just think I'm tired of running. The fire popped, casting sparks against the damp wood. She leaned closer, the warmth between us cutting through the cold. You ever wonder, she said softly, what it'd be like to stop running and just stay? Her words sank deep, the kind of question that didn't need an answer, just silence. I met her eyes. With you? She didn't blink. With anyone who'd look at me and not see wanted posters. My hand moved before thought caught up. I brushed a strand of wet hair from her cheek. She didn't pull away. Her breath caught, then steadied. For the first time, I saw her not as the outlaw they named, but as the woman who'd lost everything except her will to stand. The rain slowed to a whisper outside. Our reflections flickered in the flames, two shapes bound by need and danger. She spoke again, barely above a breath. Careful, Cole. Fire like this doesn't always heal. I smiled faintly. Then let it scar the right way. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite surrender. Just truth, raw and unhidden. She leaned in then, slow, uncertain, until her forehead rested against mine. No words, no promises, just the steady rhythm of rain and heartbeats, both refusing to stop. We stayed like that till dawn began its quiet climb over the ridge. When she finally pulled back, her voice was steady again. Delaney leaves at first light. We ride with him. Then we better pack. She nodded, eyes softer now. Cole? Yeah? Don't get used to me being gentle. Wouldn't dream of it. But I did. If this story has found its way beneath your skin, stay close. The road ahead winds through Devil's Pass, where trust burns hotter than gunpowder, and every heartbeat might be their last before the dawn. Outside, a crow called once, and somewhere beyond the trees, Delaney's horse answered, waiting. Dawn crawled over the ridge, slow and gold, bleeding through mist and pine. We rode out in silence, 3 figures, 1 promise, too much left unsaid. The rain had washed the earth clean, but not the scent of danger that trailed behind us. Delaney led, hat low, coat dark with water. Elara followed close, rifle slung across her saddle, eyes scanning every bend of the canyon. I brought up the rear, listening for the ghost of hoofbeats that didn't belong. The road to Devil's Pass wound like a scar through the mountains, thin, mean, and cruel to travelers who didn't believe in second chances. The air was sharp enough to taste like iron, Even the horses breathed careful. By mid-morning, the trail narrowed to a ledge no wider than a man's shoulder. Wind cut through the gap, carrying the smell of snow from somewhere higher. Below us, 1,000 feet of open air waited for the next mistake. "Who named this place?" Elara asked, her voice tight with the climb. "Men who didn't make it out," Delaney said without looking back. "Comforting," I muttered. She glanced over her shoulder, a hint of a grin tugging at the corner of her mouth. "You scared of heights, Maddox?" "Only when there's someone watching." "I'm always watching." Her words landed heavier than they should have. In the thin air, even her breath sounded intimate. The trail widened again after a mile, spilling us into a basin of shale and scrub. Snow still lingered in the shadows, and a narrow creek wound through the rocks like a silver vein. Delaney raised a hand for us to stop. "Rest the horses," he said. "We've got 5 hours before dark. Junction City's 2 days out if the weather holds." Elara dismounted first, tying her reins to a twisted juniper. Her boots hit the ground, soft, steady. The way she moved, like every inch of her was trained to fight or forgive, did something to me I couldn't name. Delaney knelt near the stream, washing the dust from his hands. "You ever been to Junction?" I asked. He shook his head. "Just heard stories. Half law, half sin. Fits most of us fine." Elara crouched near the water too, cupping her palms and drinking slow. When she looked up, droplets clung to her lashes like tiny shards of light. "You think the judge will listen to us?" she asked. "He'll listen to the ledger," Delaney said. "Truth don't need your name to walk through a door." She didn't answer, but I saw the thought settle in her eyes, the same thought that had haunted her since Dallaston. What if truth isn't enough? We ate in quiet, jerky, dried apples, silence thick as smoke. When the wind shifted, I caught the faint smell of gun oil, old, heavy. Someone behind us. I stood. "Elara," I said low. She froze, followed my gaze to the ridge above. A flash of movement, then another. 3 figures this time, dark against the light, riders moving slow, deliberate. Delaney cursed under his breath. "Sutter's men. They found the trail." "How far?" I asked. "Too close to matter." Elara grabbed her rifle, checked the chamber. "We hold or we run." "Run," Delaney said, "but not the same way." He pointed west toward a split in the rocks. "That gap leads to a dry ravine. Hard to track, easier to die in." She nodded. "My kind of road." We mounted fast. The air turned wild again, filled with grit and noise. Bullets cracked against the stone behind us. Sparks jumped. The echo rolled like thunder. Delaney fired once over his shoulder. "Keep low!" Elara leaned forward, hair flying loose, the rhythm of her horse in perfect time with the chaos. She looked back once, her face fierce and alive. "Still think we can make it?" "I think you look beautiful when you lie," I called. She laughed, a short, reckless sound swallowed by the wind. The ravine yawned ahead, steep and narrow. We plunged in. Rocks gave way beneath the horses, sending shards skittering down the slope. Dust filled our lungs. Every breath burned. At the bottom, the world closed around us, walls of red stone and shadow. No sound but hooves and hearts. We rode until the canyon bent left, and the sound of pursuit thinned to nothing but memory. Delaney pulled up first, chest heaving. "We lost them." "Or they're circling," Elara said. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but exhaustion she refused to show. I swung down, reached for her reins before she slid off the saddle. She hesitated, then let me. "You're shaking," I said. "I'm breathing," she replied, though her lips were pale. I handed her my canteen. She drank, slow, throat moving with each swallow. When she passed it back, our fingers brushed. Small thing, big consequence. Her eyes lingered on mine longer than they should have. "Thank you," she said softly. "Don't thank me yet." Delaney cleared his throat. "We'll camp here till nightfall, then ride under cover of stars." Elara nodded, turning away to check her saddle, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her calm. I built a small fire behind the rocks, careful to hide the glow. When it caught, she sat beside it, boots drawn close, eyes distant. "Doesn't feel real," she said after a while. "How close death rides. Feels real enough to me." She looked at me then, her face softening in the flicker of light. "Why didn't you leave me that first night?" "I tried," I said. "Didn't get far." "Why not?" "Because when you looked at me across that fire, I forgot what running felt like." Her lips parted, but no words came. Only the quiet sound of rain starting again somewhere beyond the canyon walls. She leaned closer, her voice barely a breath. "Cole, if we live through this, what then?" "Then we stop running." "And do what?" "Find a place where firelight means something other than survival." For a moment, her head rested against my shoulder. Just long enough for the world to stop spinning. Just long enough for me to believe in it. Delaney's voice broke the spell. "Get ready," he said. "If they've lost us, they'll wait till night to strike again." Elara stood, pulling her hat low, eyes sharp once more. But before she turned away, her fingers brushed mine, a silent promise made in the space between heartbeats. "If this story has touched a quiet ache you can't quite name, stay close, because the night ahead carries both mercy and betrayal. And before the dawn breaks, one secret will turn the fire between them into something that can no longer be contained." Outside, the wind shifted, and faintly, somewhere beyond the ravine, a wolf howled once. Low, mournful, and too human to be coincidence. The night sank deep into the canyon, black as spilled ink. The fire burned low, painting our faces in soft, trembling light. Somewhere beyond the rocks, the wind dragged voices that weren't wind at all. Elara stirred beside me. Her eyes caught the reflection of the flame, tired, wary, but burning with something that refused to die. "They're still out there," she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "And they're patient." "So are we." Delaney sat a few feet away, cleaning his revolver with the kind of care a man gives to his last chance. He didn't speak, didn't look up, just said, "They'll wait for the moon to fall. Then they'll come." The fire cracked. A cinder rose and died before it reached the dark. Every sound felt sharp enough to bleed. Elara drew her knees close, her voice barely above a hum. "You ever think about what peace would feel like, Cole?" "Sometimes," I said. "Then I remember I wouldn't know what to do with it." She gave a soft, humorless laugh. "Same curse we share, then." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full. Of rain. Of unspoken words. Of the way her presence had started to fill the quiet parts of me I'd stopped listening to. I watched her trace the scar on her jaw with her thumb, the firelight turning her hair to liquid copper.
"That boy in Dallaston," she said suddenly, "the one who fired first, he couldn't have been more than 19.
You think about him often?
Every night since. Not his face, just the sound, the gunshot. It echoes in my head every time I close my eyes." I nodded slowly. "You ever notice how guilt sounds the same no matter who carries it?" She looked at me, eyes softening. "You carry yours too?" "Every mile." "And does it get lighter?" "No, just more familiar." Her hand brushed mine, quick, uncertain. "You don't talk like a man who plans to die, Cole." "I don't plan to," I said, "but the desert doesn't care about plans." Delaney's voice cut through the stillness. "We've got movement." He was already crouched near the mouth of the ravine, rifle ready. 3 glints of metal caught the moonlight above the ridge. "They found us," he said. Elara was on her feet before I could move, gun in hand, eyes fierce and steady. The storm she'd been holding back all her life had found its shape. I took position beside her. 2 in front, 1 behind the rocks, I said. "I see them," she replied. Delaney motioned for silence, then whispered, "Wait for my shot." The seconds stretched long. Rain began to fall again, soft, cool, relentless. Then a single gunshot cracked the night, and the world exploded into noise. I fired left. Elara fired right. Sparks flew from stone. Horses screamed somewhere in the dark. Delaney's rifle thundered again, echoing down the canyon like a god's warning. 1 man fell. The second kept coming. The third, I didn't see him until the flash lit his face. Young, terrified, just a boy with shaking hands. "Elara!" I shouted, but she'd already moved. She took the shot, 1 clean, merciful, necessary bullet. The boy crumpled without a sound. When the echoes faded, all that remained was the smell of gunpowder and rain. Delaney lowered his rifle, his breathing ragged. "That's not all of them," he said. "There'll be more." He turned to Elara, but she was frozen, staring at the boy's body. Her gun hung loose in her hand. I stepped toward her, slow. "Elara." She didn't answer. Her lips moved, but the words never found sound. I took the gun from her hand, set it aside. "You had no choice." She blinked once, twice, and then the tears came, quiet, stubborn, furious that they dared exist. "I swore I wouldn't do this again," she said, voice cracking. "Not another kid." I pulled her close, arms around her shoulders, letting her fight it, breathe it, break through it. Her body trembled against mine, heartbeat wild and human. "You saved us," I said. She shook her head. "Doesn't feel like saving." "Maybe it never does." Delaney turned away, giving us the kind of silence men rarely offer. When she finally lifted her head, her eyes were red but steady. "I can't carry this alone anymore," she whispered. "You're not alone," I said. "Don't promise that." "It's not a promise. It's a fact." She exhaled, shaky and raw, then pressed her forehead to mine, the same way she had that night in the cabin. For a heartbeat, the rain disappeared. The world shrank to the sound of breathing and the warmth of skin. Delaney's voice came again, low but urgent. "Dawn's an hour off. We ride when it breaks. If we keep to the pass, we'll reach the low valley by tomorrow night."
Elara wiped her face, squared her shoulders, and said quietly, "Then let's see if Dawn still wants us." We broke camp under the faintest blush of light. The rain had eased, leaving the smell of wet earth and gun smoke behind. As we rode out, Elara glanced back once at the ridge where the boy had fallen. Her lips moved, a whisper I couldn't hear, but I knew it was a prayer, not for him, but for herself. I reached out, brushed her hand where it held the reins. She didn't pull away, didn't speak. But in that touch lived something new, not forgiveness, not desire, something deeper, something that might one day heal. If this story has stirred the quiet ache of regret and hope within you, stay close. Because the road to Junction City will test more than their aim. It will test their hearts, their pasts, and the fragile fire they've begun to share. And as the sun broke over the ridge, Delaney's shadow fell long across the trail, and for the first time I wondered whether he was leading us towards salvation or betrayal. The sun rose red, not bright, not clean, just the kind of dawn that smelled of dust and endings. We rode through the pass with silence heavy as saddlebags, each of us carrying more ghosts than gear. Elara didn't look back again. Delaney rode ahead, his shoulders tight, his eyes scanning the horizon like a man reading scripture written in danger. By midday, the land opened wide. The mountains behind us, the valley stretching ahead like a promise we didn't trust. Wind moved slow over the grass, whispering things I couldn't quite catch. Elara rode close, hat pulled low, her hair damp from sweat and rain. Her face was calm now, but I could still see the weight behind her eyes. The boy she shot, the storm she buried, the part of her that still bled quietly where no one could see. "You haven't said a word since dawn," I said finally. She didn't glance over. "Words don't fix the dead." "No," I said, "but they remind the living they're still here." She looked at me then, slow, careful, as if remembering that staying alive meant more than breathing. "What would you know about that, Maddox?" "I've been both kinds of man," I said, "the one who runs from ghosts and the one who talks to them. Talking's easier." Something in her face softened. Then she said, "If we make it to Junction, maybe I'll let you teach me." "You'd be a fast learner." She gave me a sideways look. "Don't get ahead of yourself." Delaney slowed his horse, turning slightly toward us. "We'll rest at the next ridge," he said. "There's a spring and some cover. The valley below leads straight to Junction." "Straight and safe aren't the same," I replied. He grunted. "Ain't much of either out here." The ridge rose gradual, dotted with brush and scattered boulders. We reached the top just as the sun dropped behind a cloud, throwing long shadows over the trail. A small spring bubbled from a crack in the stone, feeding a pool no bigger than a saddle blanket. The horses drank first. We followed after. Elara knelt beside the water, her reflection rippling with every gust of wind. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, distant. "You think men like Sutter ever sleep at night?" "Men like that don't dream," I said. "They don't have to. Their sins do it for them." Delaney crouched nearby, listening but not interrupting. The way his eyes lingered on Elara made something cold twist under my ribs. Not jealousy exactly, but something that knew what it was to lose warmth before it ever belonged to you. When she stood, I noticed the tremor in her legs. "You're exhausted," I said. She shook her head. "I've been worse." don't mean you have to prove it. Proving's the only thing that's kept me breathing. I reached out, touched her wrist. Light, but enough to stop her. Elara, I said softly, you don't have to fight every ghost alone. Her pulse jumped under my fingers. She met my eyes. I don't know how to do anything else. Then let me remind you. Her breath caught. The space between us shrank until I could smell rain and dust and the faint trace of whiskey on her lips. I didn't move closer. Didn't have to. The air did it for us. She whispered, Cole. Yeah, this is a bad idea. The best kind usually are. Then she kissed me. Hard, fierce, not like surrender, but survival. Every heartbeat in her chest felt like thunder breaking loose. Her hand slid to my jaw, holding me there as if to prove we still existed, that something good could grow even in ruin. When we finally broke apart, the silence was alive with everything we hadn't said. She looked at me, eyes glassy with firelight and fear. I didn't plan that, she said. I don't think you plan much when it matters. She smiled, small and real. Guess that makes two of us. Delaney's voice snapped the moment apart. Riders, 2 miles out. They found the trail again. Elara spun, all softness gone. How many? 4, maybe 5. Then they're bringing the rest. I mounted fast. We'll never outrun them this close. No, Delaney said, eyes narrowed. But we can make them choke on the chase. He pointed toward the east. See that ridge line? There's a box canyon up there. If we reach it first, we can bottleneck them. Or trap ourselves, I said. He shrugged. Every road's a trap when you've got a price on your head. We rode hard. Dust rose behind us like smoke from an unseen fire. Elara's hair whipped wild, her eyes locked on the horizon. The wind carried the sound of pursuit, faint, steady, inevitable. When we reached the canyon mouth, the world closed in tight again. The walls rose sharp and red, the sky a thin slice above. Delaney jumped off his horse, motioning for silence. This is it, he said. We make a stand here. Elara slid from her saddle, rifle ready, breath steady. Her eyes met mine across the space between rock and dusk. If this is where it ends, Cole. Don't finish that, I said again. She smiled, the same broken smile she'd worn under the cave light. Still can't stand goodbye? Not when I just learned what hello feels like. Her fingers brushed my sleeve, quick, hidden from Delaney's view. The touch carried more truth than any vow could hold. Delaney took position by the rocks, eyes cold as the metal in his hand. We wait till they ride into the choke point, he said. Then we end this. The echo of approaching hooves rolled through the canyon, slow, steady, unstoppable. Elara's breath hitched once, then steadied. The rifle in her hands didn't tremble. Neither did mine. I looked at her one last time, and the thought hit me clear as gunfire. If we lived through this, the story of us wouldn't end here. It would only change its shape. If this story has reached the wild part of your heart that still believes in love born from danger, stay close, because in the next breath the canyon will light with gunfire, and between smoke and silence one truth will burn brighter than all the rest. A shot cracked from the shadows, but it wasn't aimed at the riders, it was aimed at Delaney. The bullet hit Delaney clean through the shoulder. He dropped to one knee, his rifle clattering against the stone. Elara spun first, faster than thought, scanning the canyon wall. "Above us!" she shouted. The echo came with the second shot. Too close, too sharp. I tackled her down behind the rocks as the slug split stone where her head had been. Dust rained from the ledge. Delaney gritted his teeth, pressing a hand to his wound, blood dark against his coat. "Elara," I hissed, "stay down!" She ignored me, peering through the slit between boulders. "There. 2 men. Higher up. One's got a scope." My chest burned with adrenaline and smoke. "Think you can hit him?" "I can try." She steadied her rifle on the rock, eyes narrowed. The air held its breath. 1 heartbeat, 2. Then her shot cracked the silence. A figure tumbled from the ridge, limbs loose, rifle falling after. The second man ducked out of sight. "Nice," I said. She exhaled, shaking off the tremor that came after killing. "Wasn't luck." "I didn't say it was," Delaney groaned, shifting against the wall. "Shoulder's bad," he muttered, "but not the worst I've had." I tore a strip from my shirt, pressed it to the wound. He flinched, grunted once. "You patch as rough as you talk." "You'll live," I said. Elara crouched beside us, eyes flicking between the ridge and the valley mouth. "They'll keep coming," she said. "We're cornered." "Then we stop being the ones running," I replied. She met my eyes, fear flickering there, but something else too, resolve. For the first time, she nodded without argument. "All right, Maddox. Then let's end it." We moved fast. I handed Delaney my spare revolver. Elara checked the cartridges in her rifle, every movement precise, controlled, the rhythm of a woman who'd built her life on being ready for pain. The canyon grew still again, unnaturally so. Even the wind held its breath. Then came the sound. Horses. 4 riders entering the narrow throat below us, silhouettes carved in dusk. They didn't hurry. They knew they had us trapped. Elara whispered, "You take the lead on my mark." "Copy." Delaney grimaced, lifting his gun with his good arm. "You 2 better make this worth the blood." Elara counted under her breath. 1. The riders drew closer. 2. I sighted down my rifle, the nearest man's hat lining up with my barrel. 3. Gunfire erupted, a storm in a bottle. The first man fell clean. The second wheeled his horse, shouting. Elara's shot found him mid-turn. The third dove for cover, returning fire. Sparks flared against the rocks, bullets whining. Delaney's revolver thundered once, sending another rider tumbling from his saddle. The last one, broad, dark coat, heavy pistol, spurred forward through the smoke. I recognized him. Sutter's hired killer. The same man who'd pinned my name to a bounty board 6 months ago. He fired twice. 1 round grazed my arm. The other buried itself in the wall behind Elara. I lunged from cover, grabbed his reins as he passed, yanking him clean from the saddle. We hit the ground hard, rolling through dust and blood. He was strong, desperate. A man who'd sold his soul too many times to care what came next. He swung wild. I blocked, felt the bone in my wrist scream. He went for his gun. Before he could reach it, a single shot echoed. Elara's. The man went still. Smoke drifted from her barrel. She stood over us, chest rising and falling, eyes bright with fury and sorrow. "You all right?"
she asked. I nodded, breathless. Yeah. You? I'll live, she said. Then softer. If I'm lucky. Delaney limped closer, pale but grinning through the pain. Guess that's all of them. For now, I said. The canyon reeked of gunpowder and rain-soaked iron. Shadows stretched long across the ground, thin and trembling like the line between what we'd done and what we couldn't undo. Elara stared at the bodies, then turned away, sliding her rifle onto her back. No more killing, she said. Not for this. Not for him. Delaney frowned. You planning on giving up now? I'm planning on living. There's a difference. I rose, wiping the blood from my arm. She's right. The ledger's the weapon now. The rest, just noise. Delaney studied her, something shifting behind his eyes. You've got more grit than sense, he said. Your father would have liked that. Her head snapped toward him. You knew my father? He hesitated. Knew of him. Rode the same trail once. He was a hard man, but fair. He believed in second chances. Her voice dropped. Then you know he died without one. Delaney looked away, the kind of silence that means guilt. I caught it. The flicker in his jaw, the weight in his tone. He wasn't telling everything. Before I could speak, Elara turned from him, walking toward her horse. The firelight caught her profile, strong, beautiful, tired. She stopped only once to say, We ride at dawn, with or without him. Delaney nodded, wordless. I followed her. When I reached her side, she whispered, He's hiding something. I know. Will you ask him? When he's ready to lie. She gave a faint smile. Then I'll be ready to shoot. We didn't make camp that night. Too many ghosts already lingered here. Instead, we rode until the stars came out, bright and merciless, like they'd been watching all along. She rode beside me in silence, but her hand brushed mine once on the reins. Not a mistake. A tether. A wordless truth. If this story has found its way into your heartbeat, stay close. Because at sunrise, secrets buried in blood will rise, and the man they've trusted may no longer ride on their side of the law. As the first pale light touched the horizon, Delaney reached for his pocket, and I saw, just for a second, the corner of a badge glinting in the dawn. Dawn crawled across the valley slow, bleeding through mist and gun smoke. Elara rode ahead this time, her silhouette dark against the pale light. Delaney kept behind her, shoulder bandaged, jaw set hard as stone. I rode in the middle, close enough to guard either, far enough to trust neither. The air felt wrong, too quiet, too heavy. The kind of quiet that settles before truth breaks something open. We stopped where the road bent toward Junction. From up here, the town was a handful of roofs and smoke trails, barely alive in the distance. 2 more days, maybe less, and the ledger would be in the right hands, if we lived that long. Elara swung down, boots sinking into the soft red dirt. 2 days, she said. That's all we need. Delaney dismounted slower, his left arm stiff. 2 days is long enough for a lot to go wrong. He said it too easily, like a man who already knew what would. I watched him reach into his coat, slow, deliberate. He pulled something out and set it on a rock. The light caught it, the badge, polished now, whole. Not the broken relic he'd shown before. Elara froze. What the hell is that? Delaney didn't flinch. The truth. Your truth? She asked. Or the one you sell to the highest bidder? He sighed, voice low. I didn't lie about my name, but I lied about who I ride for. Then who? I asked. The marshal's office. Junction Division. I was sent to recover that ledger and bring in whoever had it. The wind went still. Even the horses turned restless, as if they could feel the shift in the air. You son of a... Elara started, but he raised his hand. Listen first, he said. The bounty was supposed to be yours, Cole. You were the thief, the outlaw. She was just a witness. But after Dallaston, the story changed. They tied her to you, made her the villain to draw you out. I stared at him, words caught in my throat. Why? I asked finally. Because you took something that wasn't yours. That ledger. I laughed bitterly. It's not yours either. No, he said, but it belongs to the law, not vengeance. Elara stepped forward, fury burning under her skin. You think law and vengeance don't share the same bed out here? That ledger holds names of men who wear your badge. You call that justice? Delaney didn't answer. He looked at her, really looked, and something in his face cracked. I'm sorry for your brother, he said. He wasn't supposed to die. Her voice trembled. You were there? Yes, he said quietly. I was the one who gave the order to fire. The sound she made wasn't human. Half gasp, half broken sob. Her gun was in her hand before I could move. Don't, I said softly. Elara, he killed him, Cole. And if you shoot him now, you lose everything your brother died for. Her hand shook. Delaney stood still, no fear in his eyes, only the weight of years too heavy to outrun. If you're going to do it, he said, do it clean. The silence that followed felt endless. Rain threatened again in the distance, the smell of it thick in the air. Finally, Elara lowered the gun, not out of mercy, out of exhaustion. I want you to live with what you did, she said. That's slower punishment. Delaney nodded once, as if she'd given him exactly what he deserved. I'll take that, he said. I stepped between them, every nerve in me strung tight. So what happens now? He looked at me, then at the ledger tied to my saddle. You take that book to the judge, he said. Tell him what's inside. Tell him it came from me. What about you? I'll ride back another way. Say you both died in the canyon. They'll stop hunting. Elara's voice was sharp. Why help us now? Because your father once pulled me out of a river after I'd been shot by the same men who pay me now, he said. He said I owed him nothing, but he was wrong. The confession hung between us, heavy, unsteady, true. For the first time, Elara's eyes softened, just barely. She holstered her gun. If you're lying, I'll find you. He gave a faint smile. Wouldn't expect less. We rode separate for a while, Delaney trailing behind, his badge glinting in the weak light. The storm finally broke. Rain came soft at first, then hard enough to blur the horizon. We stopped beneath a lone cedar tree, water running down our faces like tears we didn't admit to. Elara leaned against her horse, shoulders trembling. I should have killed him, she whispered. No, I said. You should have lived instead. She turned toward me, eyes raw and tired. You still trust me, Cole? More than I trust the law. Then don't ever stop. Lightning split the sky, and in that flash she stepped forward, hands finding mine, lips finding everything I'd been afraid to want. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was a wound healing wrong, fierce and necessary. She pulled back, only to whisper against my mouth, "If we make it to junction, I'm done running. No more hiding. No more ghosts." I held her face, rain dripping from my fingers. "Then let's finish this story right." She smiled faintly. "And if it ends bad, then we'll burn together brighter than the truth that tried to kill us. If this story has burned a soft corner in your heart, stay close, because the next dawn will bring the last stand, where justice meets betrayal and love will be forced to choose between mercy and revenge." Far behind us, thunder rolled again. And through the rain, the faint echo of a single gunshot, one not fired by us, carried through the valley, announcing that Delaney's choice had already been made. The sound of that gunshot rolled across the valley like the echo of a memory refusing to die. It bounced off the cliffs, faded, then returned again, softer, lonelier. Elara's eyes met mine. "Delaney," she whispered. We turned our horses and rode back into the rain. The storm had swallowed everything: sky, earth, breath, mud clung to the hooves. Lightning flashed long enough for me to see the trail of blood glinting on wet stone. We found him near a split in the ridge, half slumped against his horse, one hand still gripping the reins. The wound in his chest was small, deliberate, a single shot, the kind a man gives himself when there's no road left to ride. Elara slid from her saddle, knees sinking into the mud beside him. "Damn you, Delaney," she said softly. "You didn't have to end it this way." His eyes fluttered open, pale, dim, but still aware. "Didn't end it," he rasped. "Just set it right." He looked at me. "Ledger's yours now. Don't let it rot in another man's drawer." "I won't." Elara took his hand, and for a moment the outlaw and the lawman shared the same quiet mercy. He managed a smile that looked almost like peace. "Tell your father. He was right about second chances." Then he exhaled, just once, and didn't take another. The rain softened after that, like the sky itself was mourning him. Elara stood slowly, face streaked with water and grief. "He chose the only justice he could trust," she said. "Maybe that's the only kind any of us ever get," I replied. We buried him under the cedar tree, the storm easing into silence. I placed the badge on the mound of earth. Elara whispered a prayer she didn't know she remembered. When it was done, we rode without speaking. By evening, the lights of Junction flickered faint through the mist, small, fragile, alive. The smell of smoke and whiskey carried from the outskirts. We reached the edge of town just as dusk folded itself over the rooftops. Elara stopped her horse, turned to me. "This is it," she said. "No more running." "Never again," I said. We found the courthouse, a squat stone building with windows like tired eyes. The judge was waiting, a thin man with a coat too big and a conscience too small. But when Elara laid the ledger on his desk and opened it to the names, the widows, the debts, the false claims, even he couldn't look away. "This will ruin men," he said. "It'll save better ones," Elara replied. He nodded slowly. "You'll have protection, Miss Quinn. For now." "No," she said. "Just give me silence."
That's all the protection I need." When we stepped back into the street, the sky was clearing. 1,000 stars blinked awake over the western rim. The wind smelled clean again, sage, dust, a hint of dawn waiting its turn. Elara turned to me, hat low, lips parted. "So," she said, "what does a man do when he runs out of reasons to run? He learns how to stay. And you think you can stay?" I looked at her, this woman who'd walked through hell and came out with fire still in her eyes. "With you," I said, "I already am." She smiled then, slow, tired, beautiful. And in that moment, everything that had broken between us began to heal. We walked to the edge of town, where the desert opened wide again. The night hummed low with crickets and memory. She reached for my hand, not out of fear this time, but faith. We stood in silence, watching the firelight from the saloon flicker against the windows like a heartbeat. Elara whispered, "You ever think we were meant to find each other?" "No," I said, "but I think we were meant not to lose each other once we did." Her head rested against my shoulder. The wind carried our breath into the dark, mingling with dust and stars and all the things we'd survived. For the first time in my life, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. If this story has touched a quiet place inside you, let your heart linger here a little longer. The desert keeps its secrets, but it also keeps its promises. And sometimes even the hunted find home beneath its endless sky. So if you've felt that same pull between danger and tenderness, between firelight and forgiveness, stay with us, like, share, or leave a sign that you were here, because stories like this keep the western fire burning bright for hearts that still believe in love after the gun smoke clears. And as the last light faded, Elara took my hand, whispered one final word. Home. The wind carried it west, where the stars began their watch again, and the firelight between us never died.